G'day there guys, I want to speak to your manager. Back at it again with another episode of r/EntitledParents. Now if you enjoy today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy today's bloody Karen stories. Posted by user Unicorn That's Emo. Titled, Entitled Mother Tries Making Me Give My Spot Up for Her Daughter. So this happened last year, but I didn't have enough comment karma, so here we go. Egu is me, M is Karen, Ek is the kid, and Egud is my dad. I had just graduated high school, and I was waiting for my responses from the colleges I applied to. Well, the day came. I got my acceptance letter to a good college in my state. Well, my neighbors had a child who graduated with me and applied to the same college. The only difference is that she didn't get accepted. So she jumped our fence. It isn't high since it was for the dog, and knocked on the door. So I opened it, and the conversation goes as follows. Hey, did you get into college? Yeah, I did. Did you? No, because you took my spot. Well, if you'd actually tried in high school instead of slacking and turning to drugs, maybe you would have gotten in. I got all A's in middle school and high school, thank you, and vaping isn't a drug. Now, the funny part is that in middle school, she had advocated against vaping, then ended up doing it a year later. As for the grades part, she started slipping in high school, resulting in her dropping from all her advanced classes. So I just shook my head and watched her leave. I wasn't affected, she ruined her life on her own. Her mum and her came back over, and her mum was ticked. With a wrath of fury, she knocked on my door. I opened it, having been awoken by the knocking, and was pushed down to the ground. Entitled Mother says, if you know what's good for you, you'd give up your spot. My spot for the college I have worked towards since I was young? No way, get out of here, Karen. My name is not Karen, and I demand you give your spot to Entitled Kid. Listen, Entitled Mother, it's your daughter's fault for slacking. I am not giving up my spot for her. My dad had heard screaming after a thud, so he had come up to see what was going on, when he saw Entitled Mother screaming at me. Egud says, what's going on, Entitled Mother? Egu stole X's spot in college. Oh, you got in? Well, I don't know what to tell you. She got in fair and square. No, she did not. She took my baby's spot. Listen, if you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police. Entitled Mother and Entitled Kid did leave, but not without threatening us first, and as far as I know, the kid still lives there, without a job and is not in college. As for her mum, she got the cops called on her for trying to harass my sister. I, however, am enjoying quarantine with my roommate, who actually is the other person from my grade to make it into the college. As for my family, they're doing better now. My mum is a worker, however, so it's taking a toll on her still, but other than that, we all good. E. Does this seem dramatic? Maybe it is. I am a dramatic person at times. I probably made this bigger than it should have been, and there was parts cut out that I feel wouldn't fit, like the daughter didn't go immediately home. We talked after that, but I mean, the only reason I know she was declined was because, well, she set it up there. Right? Yeah, more or less. And sadly, my parents don't have a peephole on their door. Can't watch for Karens. The edit didn't really help me out in this situation, but thank you for putting it in there, OP. That really helped out, I guess. Posted by user Drackle Baron. Titled, Entitled Mother Wants to Push My Staff Off a Ladder. Background. I was a site engineer in the finishing stages of a mall. Restaurants and stores were handled by their contractors, and our only interaction was to ensure the compliance and connection to the mall's overall fire emergency system. Now, hooking up a normal-sized store would usually take us an hour because we had to simulate a fire and ping every fire detector to ensure that we had the proper location and address. We usually did this in the early hours of the morning at around 8 a.m. However, by the time we reached the restaurant level, they had already opened up, and on this faithful day, I had the largest restaurant on that level to deal with. While we started at 8 a.m., it was around 10 a.m., and we were only halfway done when the restaurant opened to the patrons. Our cast are manager, entitled mother, daughter, son, and me. Scene. Manager says, Baron, I'm going to let in a family who came early, 'cause it's really hot outside. Fine, but please keep them on the right wing of the store while we finish here, and we'll try to keep noise and dust to a minimum. I have a reservation for 3. Hi, yes, please, right this way. Oh, they're still working on the... And he gave us a wave. What? How disgusting! Why are you guys open while they're still working? Oh, don't worry, ma'am, you'll be seated away from the work, and as you can see, they have a transparent tarp set up between us, so you won't see a single speck of dust. It's not just the dust, but the smell. Disgusting pigs, can't they even shower? By the way, we've been working without air conditioner on the outside of the store in August, since 8 a.m., but we did not smell, like really. Hey, excuse me? The daughter and son say, Mom, don't. The sigh was palpable. You, one with the glasses, you need to leave. First, I have a name, I don't care about your name. Just do as I say, or I will tell your boss and have you fired. Really? You know, if I tell my guys to step down the ladder, we will close this place. I do not care. If you won't get off the ladder, I will push them off. Here's the thing. The ladder is about 3 meters high, around 10 feet. Both technicians are dangling from it, testing fire alarms for misfires and classifications. A fall from that height with their feet wrapped around the ladder steps would mean broken legs, hips, and they might see a few broken ribs. I'm like, what the actual did you just say? Cross the tarp and attempt it, come on. Ma'am, I'm going to have to call security if you do not stop this. Mum, stop! How dare you threaten me? She walked over the tarp. I say, okay, and I slapped her with the back of the iPad that I was using as a checklist and pushed her onto the floor and onto her ass out of the tarp. Threaten my staff again. I dare you. How dare you touch me? I will have your head for this, you pig! Well, I did not really touch you. I do not touch trash barehanded, as I wiggled my iPad in front of her. And she screams out, Son, beat him! She began breathing heavily, and as if a demon is going to appear by her side to kill me. He's like, no. He grabbed his mum by the shoulder, helped her up, and ushered her out the door. I've never seen someone more ashamed. The manager says, Miss, I called security. Please step outside with me. The aftermath. The security came and took their statements. She screamed a few more insults and said I broke her teeth, but refused to open her mouth to show the security. Once they mentioned cameras, she started to pretend to faint. I was called in and asked to tell my side of the story, and mine was corroborated by the cameras in the store. I did not face any charges, and the woman was banned from the mall. Her kids, however, were still allowed to enter normally. And by the way, the primary reason I've been holding off this story is because how I handled it was immature, and where I should have de-escalated the situation, I reacted by enticing a confrontation. Regardless of whether people deserve to be called out for their behavior or punished, should be a matter of law and not personal vendettas. While I did not get punished, I am somewhat ashamed of my actions. When possible, we should try to de-escalate situations. A lesson I learned after a few more of these encounters. Author's note, slap here might be too aggressive of a description, but it's the closest term I could think of. I firmly placed the iPad on her face and forcefully pushed it off. In other terms, the iPad did not forcefully collide with her face initially, but it was a powerful push followed by a body shove. Posted by user Sunny Cool, titled The Noise Police. Another post reminded me of my best friend's first foray into property ownership. While I never lived with them, I visited a couple times a week on average and saw this behavior firsthand. My bestie and her husband bought the first floor of a 2-family house that had been turned into condos. Word of advice, never buy into a 2-unit condo association. I've seen it several times and it's never ended well. Anyhow, all was fine for the first 2 years until the upstairs unit sold to an epically entitled single mother and her toddler son. The first thing the single mother did was rip out all the carpeting, all the layers of noise-proofing under the flooring, and refinish the crappy subfloor to be her flooring. Her excuse for this was allergies and not being able to afford proper flooring. Maybe don't buy an expensive condo in a trendy neighborhood then. Anyhow, this left her basically nothing between her unit and the lower unit that would muffle any sound at all. Every single time she could hear anything from downstairs during certain times, she flew into a screaming rage and came barging on their front door. She expected absolute silence between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. because her son took his naps somewhere in there, depending on when he got tired. Also between 7 p.m. and 9 a.m. because kiddo was either sleeping or winding down for bed in that time period. Sometimes she'd flip out outside of those hours at random because she was an entitled jerk. The quiet hours in the condo agreement were from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., just for the record, not that she cared. Some of the things she came screaming to complain about that I personally witnessed in the daytime or early evening, the times I was visiting that did not overlap with quiet hours, included most any conversation at a volume above a whisper, running the garbage disposal, dishwasher, washer, dryer, blender, or basically any appliance. Even the ding of the toaster was too much. Vacuuming, having the television or music on at any volume, playing the piano or acoustic guitar, talking in a normal speaking voice, opening or closing doors, not even remotely slamming, their cats playing chase around the house, eating meals, the clatter of utensils on plates. She wanted them all to use plastic or disposable paper as it was quieter. Phones ringing or vibrating too loudly, usually when left on a table or something that amplified that noise a bit. Doing yoga, washing dishes by hand, sneezing, walking too hard. Any walking was called this if you stepped on one of the creaky floorboards in this 100-year-old house. Having the compressor of the fridge come on, it made a tiny thunk and a dull like most do. The ice machine being used to dispense ice or it dumping ice as part of its normal cycle, and of course, flushing the toilet. Worse, her kid was a tantrum-tossing, caterwauling type who liked to beat toys against the floor. There being nothing between the floors anymore that muffled any sound, my bestie and her husband were subject to this insane noise at full volume at all hours. Any mention of it caused his entitled mother to launch into a tirade about how he was just a kid, how hard it was to be a single mother, and what did they expect her to do? Well, put the noise-proofing material back, which wasn't even allowed to be removed per her contract? Given it was a 2-unit condo association, and entitled mummy wouldn't vote against herself, there was nothing they could do except sue, which they couldn't afford at that time and would have only served to escalate things further. This wildly entitled mum made their lives so miserable with her constant beating on their door to scream at them at all hours that it took about 6 months for them to put their condo on the market and move. The entitled mother was thrilled about this and gloated about the horrid noisy people leaving. Since they lived in a very trendy up-and-coming town, they got several full asking price offers. The one they accepted wasn't the best offer, as the terms were extremely fussy and specific, but the seemingly entitled couple that made the offer was also extremely pregnant. My bestie and her husband moved to a single-family home where they were free to flush whenever they wanted. We all still have a laugh now and then imagining the war zone of feuding entitled parents in the old place. TLDR, entitled parent rips out soundproofing between condo units, then flips out constantly at being able to hear everyday noises like flushing. Friends move to escape the abuse and sell to a very pregnant entitled couple. We all enjoy imagining the war zone left behind. Posted by user V Stormcloud. Titled, Religious entitled mother wants to call her lawyers because her 18-year-old daughter moved out. Before I get this started, I just want to say that I've been reading entitled parent stories for over 2 years, and I never thought I would have one to tell of my own. This is a story about how my friends' lives have been going recently, so here, meet the cast. EM is a killer robot overlord, D is her daughter, boyfriend is D's boyfriend, ND is nice dad, F is friend, and L is landlord. So the daughter had had enough of entitled mother. She said she considered moving out, and entitled mother cuts off D's phone service and took her phone away, kicked her out of nice dad's house, and didn't speak to the daughter for months. After that, Boyfriend got her a new phone and a job at Domino's. They both work there now. I think I also should mention, entitled mother is trying to keep daughter on her child support for as long as possible so that she can keep taking money from nice daughter, who is making around $35,000 a year, while entitled mother is making $90,000 in cybersecurity, and she gets primary custody and child support that she doesn't need, even though entitled mother cheated on nice dad countless times. Daughter and boyfriend are currently living with my friend, whose mother is their landlord, L. Entitled mother threatened to take legal action against L, who is an immigrant barbershop employee who is barely able to pay for her own home and car for renting to people who just turned 18, which is the legal age to move out of your parents' house. Entitled mother also said that she will be looking for her. We don't really know what that means, so we'll just need to hope for the best. The worst part is, entitled mother has had everything handed to her entire life, and nothing bad has ever happened to entitled mother. I apologize that there is no happy ending here, because the conflict is still going on. I'm hoping that I'll be posting a good news update in the future. Thanks for reading. Posted by user CubeDroid05, titled, Entitled mother tries to take away my wheelchair so her daughter can sit down. Context. This happened before lockdown started in the UK, so the details of the story are not pinpoint accurate. Our cast are me, mum, the dip crap entitled mother's daughter, and nurse. I had a skiing accident while learning to ski with a friend. This was because we were going on holiday. It had been going quite well, but in the last 30 minutes, I fell over and broke it. I was stretchered off the slope and taken to the hospital. When there, I was given a wheelchair because I couldn't walk and didn't have crutches because it had just broken. We went into the waiting area and it was quite busy because this was back when everyone was taking their kids to the hospital because their child got a cold. Combine that with 2 serious accidents that came in and we had a long wait ahead of us. Thankfully, the wheelchair was cushioned, which was nice for me, and about 3 hours into the wait, a mother and daughter walk into the waiting room. This is entitled mother and daughter. Daughter has a face mask on and is looking worried. Entitled mother says, "Go find a seat, daughter, while I sign in, but make sure it's away from people." But all the seats are close to each other and it's full. Well, find anyone and sit down. You're wearing a face mask. Daughter looks around the room and spots one empty chair and sits down. Entitled mother walks over and says, "Where's my seat, daughter?" "This is the only empty one, entitled mother." Entitled mother stands up for about an hour. She then scours the room and spots me in my nice comfy wheelchair, and she starts walking over to me. "Excuse me, young man." "Yes?" "I can't help but notice that you're on a movable chair. Could I borrow that from you to sit next to my daughter?" "No, sorry. My son is waiting on an x-ray and can't stand up." "Well, if you haven't had an x-ray, then you don't know if it's broken." "I think it's broken because you can hear the clicking when you move it." "Well, it's public property, so you can't use it as your private property." "I seriously can't move, so can you leave me alone?" Entitled mother raises her voice for the waiting room to hear. "What do you mean I can't have the chair? My daughter is very nervous and needs me to sit next to her." Daughter looks down at the floor, embarrassed. The nurse calls out and says, "Can I please have me for his x-ray?" My mother and I go into the x-ray and get the diagnosis that my leg is broken and get it casted. This takes about 3 hours and takes us till 2 in the morning. I'm then taken home, but while I'm going back through the waiting room, I spot entitled mother and the color drops from her face as she realizes that my leg was actually broken. There was no arrest and no removing from the hospital, just a very conveniently timed nurse and a look of horror on entitled mother's face. Edit, just to be clear, the daughter is not entitled. Edit 2, this happened in an A&D and was full of little children. They were all running around clearly fine and should have been taken to a walk-in center instead. Posted by user Andrew52717, titled, There is no bedroom, only office. I'm posting a lot of these stories today, but they keep flooding my memory. This one occurred around the downswing of my parents' behavior. I would say around that time that hugs and I love you stopped being a thing in our house. I think I was around 7-ish. Who here remembers those foam chairs that you would unfold into a bed that you could get for 3 easy payments of $19.95 call now? I had asked my parents for one for years as a kid, because it would be cool to be able to camp out in the living room and watch VHS tapes, because I'm that old. Imagine my surprise when my parents got one each for me and my brother. We were so excited. We would use them as often as we could. Sometimes I would sleep on that in my room instead of my bed. So my brother and I did not like cleaning our room as most 7-year-olds wouldn't. What kid enjoys cleaning their room? So one day, my dad gave us an ultimatum of, clean your room or else. He didn't say what he would do. I would try to keep the room clean, but it was a losing battle. My brother and I are twins and share a room, and you know the difficulty of keeping a shared room clean. Anyway, it wasn't kept to their liking, so my dad came in with garbage bags and started bagging our stuff and putting it somewhere where we couldn't find it. He then tells us as punishment that we lost our room. Our parents put us in the corner of the living room by the broken front door that did not have working locks, with our dresser and 2 fold-out chairs as beds. This setup was in full view during holidays and family visits. Absolutely embarrassing. They ended up turning our room into an office for my mum's business, as she worked out of the house during that time. Now that I look back on the experience, I realize the folding chairs were all part of the grand plan to use our mild disobedience as an excuse to give my mum a home office. Edit, photo included, we ended up staying in the living room for what felt like a year, but I'm misremembering by their account, as it was only 3 months. Either way, a ridiculous scenario. And here's my fancy pants bed. I actually remember having one of these as a kid, but it was a different design. I think it was Thomas the Tank Engine. Still, pretty sick bed. Posted by user Sugi0003. Titled, Entitled Mother Makes Fun of My Height to Try to Win an Argument, so I return the favor with all of her flaws. I'm turning 27 in a few weeks, and stand at a meager 5'2". Because of my height, people have never taken me seriously, and it will probably be a long time before anyone does. Most of the time, I try to keep myself busy and not think about it, but in my private moments, I find myself hating this accursed height, or when I'm feeling moody. Please don't leave comforting comments, they only make me more miserable. Our cast are me, insert snarky name/title here, Entitled Medusa, and Entitled Medusa's teenage daughter. Story. So I was standing in the front of a self-checkout after picking up groceries, and it was one of those days when I was feeling moody and was wallowing in self-pity. Suddenly, a Karen appears and cuts in line. She didn't even stand in a correct spot for the social distancing, just waltzed in front of me. She was with her teenage daughter, and the daughter already looked like she wanted to bury her head in the sand. Not wanting to deal with this, I decided to call her out and say, "Excuse me, but you just cut in front of me." "No, I didn't. You're just slow. Please get behind the line. I've been waiting." "Mum, he's right. You aren't even—" "No, I got this." And she turns back to me. "I am not listening to someone so short." She was around 5'7". "What does that have to do with you cutting in line? You don't understand how our society works. No one's going to listen to your hobbit ass." People behind me went, "Oof," and the daughter buries her face in her hands. Me, with a nonchalant look, say, "You don't understand how our society works either. No one's going to listen to your logicless ass either." She was left stunned. People snickered, and even the daughter was trying not to laugh. One of the checkouts became available, and I went around her to purchase my food. I thought this was the end, but no. Entitled Mother wanted to win this bitter battle. She came up to me, used her arms to swipe everything off the counter, and said, "You will apologize and buy my groceries." No, I will not apologize for something I'm right about, let alone reward your childlike behavior. I am older and wiser than you. You'll listen to I am a senior at State University, averaging a 3.8 GPA. What's your education? The daughter, chiming in giggling, GED? Entitled Mother's face goes red and says, "I still have authority to ruin you. My husband is..." Okay, I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Tell me, have you done any sort of work aside from getting money from him? What does that have to do with... Have you endured any form of hardships, struggles, or problems to get where you are? Entitled Mother finally shuts up. You see, that's the difference between you and me. Regular folks like me had to work their butts off to get to achieve what they want, unlike you, who had everything handed down because you opened your legs to some rich and powerful dude. Entitled Mother was about to say more, but that's when the manager and security dude arrived. Didn't even need to take statements. Apparently she was banned from this store before, didn't figure out why. She was quickly escorted out, with the daughter trailing behind. People who were watching the whole thing offered to buy my stuff, but I knew that I wasn't that desperate. I simply went back to grab the items again and paid for it despite the manager insisting it will be on the house. As I exited, the daughter was waiting for me and apologized for her mum's behavior. I apologized for that last remark, sounding like it was directed at her. She didn't find it offensive, but found it hilarious. Posted by user Sassy Cheese Cube, titled, "Karen wants a teenager to teach her swear words in French in front of her 10-year-old. I'm Indian, but I speak a few languages like French, Spanish, and Italian. As I said in my last post, I use French out of context sometimes. I don't swear in real life unless someone is being a pain in the ass, and this happened in March. I went to meet my friend's brother when he came back from Canada in early March before flights got cancelled. We were not in a crowded place, but there were some people here and there. We were having ice cream and we were just chatting. Because he lived in Canada, we started a conversation in French just for fun, 'cause why not? Enter Miss Karen with her little piss baby. He looked around 10. P-Baby was throwing tantrums about getting 2 ice creams, but Karen said no. So that little started yelling out swears. I was shocked, to be frank. P-Baby probably heard them from Karen or his father, I assumed, but did not care that much. As we continued our conversation, Karen heard us. Here we go. She says, "Is that German?" "No, it's Spanish." No. "Then what are you speaking?" My friend's brother says, "French." "Oh, I love France." Then she said, "Je m'appelle bonjour." Friend's brother and I looked at each other with a face. Another idiot, eh? We acknowledged her with nods, but did not want to say anything because we knew it would be breaking our head against the wall, and continued our conversation. But she kept on trying to hear what we said, while we just ignored her. A few minutes later, she says, "Teach me how to swear?" "I want ice cream." "I don't swear." "You do, you're a teenager. Don't lie to me." "Ice cream." "Well, some teenagers don't." "No, but you have to teach us." Her and her P-Baby. "Ice cream." Friend's brother says, "Leave us alone." "How dare you? I am your mother's age. Apologize to me." And then the P-Baby swears. Friend's brother and I decided to ignore her, and that hurt her Karen ego. She threatened to call the cops. Yes, she wanted to turn us in because we won't swear. By now, Karen was scaring other customers. Then the manager of the ice cream parlor comes and asks her what's wrong. This woman literally had the nerve to say, "They are swearing at me and my little innocent child. Throw them out. They are bleep 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 bleep." The manager then says, "That's it. You're causing a public disturbance. You need to leave." Her and P-Baby were both thrown out, and what was the last thing the P-Baby said, you ask? "Ice cream!" Alright, and I think that's where we're going to leave today's episode, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed the content today. If you guys loved watching it as much as I loved making it, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel already if you haven't. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below, maybe like the video, who knows. I'd also like to take this time to thank my awesome Patreon and channel members. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably be homeless on the streets of Ireland, crying, Irish dancing all over town. It would just be a mess. But no, for real, you guys are up on the screen now. Thank each and every one of you guys. And if you personally want to join the club yourself, there are links down in the description below. There's also the join button next to the subscribe button. Small monthly fee, but hey, it goes a long way to help me create more awesome content. Well, with that said, guys, I hope you do have a lovely day, night, sleep, evening, day at work, day at school, whatever you're up to. I hope you keep awesome today. You're looking amazing, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.